Before this video begins, I would like to give a quick thank you to my Asbantium level patrons FaolanCortez and Nathan Gibson. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Well, here we are again, and for the final time. I have once again been commissioned by my Asbantium level patron FaolanCortez to endure the misery that is My Little Pony. In previous commissions of this franchise, I usually manage to at least find some redeeming features or discover some interesting narrative themes and stuff to analyse, but I can safely say that wasn't the case when I sat down to watch all 8 episodes of Make Your Mark Chapter 2. And it indeed made its mark, although not in the way it probably intended. I don't want to clutch my pearls and become one of those typical back in my day people, but I kind of noticed that this show really isn't teaching the right kinds of lessons to the youth of tomorrow, especially when compared to the previous content I covered from this generation of the show. So buckle up, because it's time for me to take one final dive into the deep depths of hell that is My Little Pony Make Your Mark. So, if you haven't already watched my previous videos on this show, first of all, I'd like to congratulate you on being sane. But secondly, let me update you. The big movie introduced 5 new characters: Blandy McBlanderson, TikTok influencer, All Cops Aren't Bad, Flying Tomboy, and Queen of Neurodivergence. They all met on a quest to restore magic to the world of the franchise and stop a literal child dictator from going on a genocidal war throughout the kingdoms. It was a decent kids movie for what it was, but the follow-up was a lot weaker, and oh boy, the quality dips even further here with very cringe and try-hard writing and voice acting. Seriously, this is somehow even more manic and hyperactive than regular Zoomer entertainment. Every character has a ridiculously short attention span and needs constant stimuli. They never slow down or shut up for like 5 minutes. It's infuriating. You know all those studies about SpongeBob giving my generation ADHD? Yeah, well, that's nothing compared to this. I know the Brony fanbase is still huge, and after I reviewed an episode of Friendship is Magic, I kind of understood the general appeal, but watching these few episodes just makes me wonder how adults can even get any enjoyment out of this. Obviously it appeals to kids with their TikTok and Twitter brain rot, but man, nothing has made me feel more out of touch than this goddamn train wreck of a show. Episode 1 is all about the birthday of bland main character Sunny Starscout. Seriously, she's so cookie cutter and white bread, it's astounding really. Her only character trait is just being happy to be there, and that never makes anyone interesting. Her more interesting but more annoying friend Izzy makes a random piece of jewellery out of tat, and this goes viral for some reason. I guess I've never heard of Etsy before. Now everyone wants one, and Izzy is all like, oh no, I'd rather not get free money and rich for selling tat, and rather than them just pointing her towards that literal mass production factory from the movie, there's a painfully cringe musical number to inspire Izzy to get creative or something.
Now let's all agree to never be creative again.
Also, what even is the economy of this place? Everyone just gives stuff away or does things for free, unless it's like a smoothie, that's like the only thing they actually pay for. Are they in some sort of hippie commune where money is non-functional despite them all still working jobs? I guess they're just living in Seattle then. And then we get the big moral story of the episode, just taking other people's ideas to be successful. Yeah, no, literally. Izzy learns that to be truly creative, you just have to stumble upon someone else's creativity and repurpose it as your own. Or in Pip's case, she realises that if you can't come up with new musical hits, she should just slightly remix her old ones and print double money for every single song. Great idea, Netflix. Make sure to instill that derivative, lazy, modern media mindset into the corporate executives of tomorrow. Because who needs new ideas when you can just constantly reuse existing ones? I mean, that's pretty much the entire premise of the show already. The second movie introduced a little baby dragon named Sparky, who quickly becomes the most annoying character in the show. Right from episode 1, he's positioned as comic relief, but there's nothing relieving about this insufferable baby character who is always getting in the way and being a nuisance. Sparky is so dumb and annoying, never really having any function to the wider episodes. After the first couple of episodes he's just annoying, but by the end of the series I just wanted to punt him into the sun. It's miserable viewing. I mean, episode 2 even dares to position Hitch as being in the wrong for actually trying to keep a baby's life in order with schedules and structure. Because apparently the right course of action is to let the baby do everything at once and get whatever it wants. Yeah, good luck with all the entitlement and brattiness that will lead to. Heaven forbid you actually say no to a child sometimes. They really are going to end up being media executives. The episode also chronicles Hitch's attempts at keeping magic under control because it keeps causing issues and destruction. The episode paints him like he's some sort of villain who wants everyone catalogued and treats him like Sprout the dictator, who, by the way, just comes back and starts sweeping roads, apparently completely forgiven for trying to wipe out 2 entire species. See, there's no such thing as cancellation. But anyway, all Hitch wants to do is actually take the time and effort to work out exactly what can be done with all this magic, so he can know how they can deal with its downsides and keep people safe. Zip even tells him off saying, and I quote, "It's too early to know if Earth pony magic is anything to worry about." Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how we ended up with lead in toys and asbestos in building materials, because God forbid you try to regulate new science or technology in order to explore the short and long term effects. It's funny how the population pushes back against this harder than they did against Sprout. Reminds me of gun control, I guess, and this episode seems to be on the NRA's side there. Kind of awkward. Anyway, Hitch concedes and the protagonists get an exposition dump from a hologram Twilight Sparkle before they form a magic Megazord to stop a berry falling down a road. Thrilling stuff! Another weird as hell point of view comes in episode 3, which is all about the royal family's portrait day thing. Because the royal family is so relatable, just look at how young and spry our new king is. Zip and Pip dodge the beauty salon to go looking for some specific flower, and for some reason Zip is seen as a villain for telling Pip to just shut the fuck up about being an influencer for one moment. Seriously, Pip spends the whole time vlogging and tweeting on her phone, not really engaging with her sister and generally just being a bad person to be around. So why are they trying to push that as something good to do? These kinds of vain influencers suck, and the show really shouldn't be trying to encourage that kind of behaviour. The last thing we need are more Jake Pauls. And what's even worse is how in the end it's Zip who apologises for making it about herself? Genuinely, how is that the conclusion they come to? Pip gives a half-assed 2-second apology because I guess the writers remembered basic morals, but they make Zip seem like the one who is really in the wrong, and that just feels like a bad message to send because it was Pip who was ruining everything and making everything about her. The writers just kind of gaslight Zip into thinking she was being selfish. But at the end of the day, I suppose they have to try and justify Pip only having one single character trait, since all the characters in the show are one-dimensional without any depth to them. Never before have I seen a show that suffers so badly from such a bloated cast, despite them not even having enough character depth, even when every episode tries to focus on one or two of them specifically. They still feel bland and boring. Absolutely ludicrous and almost insulting if you ask me. Sticking with Pip the Influencer, episode 4 fakes you out with the initial premise of being the traditional healthy eating episode. You know, a genuinely good message for the kids. But nope. Instead, it's actually all about Pip's career failing and her falling into obscurity. At least it's something I can relate to. But yeah, rather than encouraging kids to eat their greens like the good old days of the Wiggles, it's all about clout and popularity, since some flavour of the week TikTok group want to hang out with Sunny, but only when she's an alicorn or whatever. You know that one bit from Shrek?
To the roar.
Yeah, it's just like 25 or so minutes of that and it's very boring. And the big takeaway at the end? Pip realises that she can revive her career by becoming a lolcow and getting hurt for people's entertainment. How fun, because we always need more Chris-chans and Wings of Redemptions. Like I've mentioned throughout, the messaging in this series is all over the place. It seems to teach people all the wrong lessons, and even when it stumbles upon legitimate topics, it ends up coming to the worst conclusion about them. It's wild. Like, one of the only decent messages comes in episode 5, but it's one that just goes without saying. It's a kind of body swap episode where Hitch and Sunny switch places or something to understand the importance of each other's roles within the community. It's basically just a run-of-the-mill episode about that one saying to do with walking a mile in someone else's shoes. The episode itself is pretty weak, but where's this kind of morality in the rest of the show? Just more of that. In the second movie, some villains were teased at the end, showing up properly in this series as Opaline and Misty. They're typically inept villains trying to sneak around every episode with lame plans to take over the world or whatever, from their comically evil castle in Evil Land, USA. You know, because this is a kids show and that's usually what happens. But I find it kind of annoying how Misty is barely even a villain at all, because apparently these days out and out villain pairings like Saruman and Grima Wormtongue are bad for merch or something, I guess. Like, Wormtongue was still a complicated figure despite having no redemption arc. But I guess nuance is dead in kids media, so Misty never feels like a villain at all, reluctantly taking part in the schemes and actually wanting to become friends with the protagonist, like when she tries to infiltrate their big sleepover as a sussy and mogus imposter in episode 6. Like, sure, I understand they want to redeem this villain, but at least have her start off as a proper villain. Even from her very first appearance, it makes no sense why she's on the side of the villains. She just comes across as so out of place. Episodes 7 and 8 try to give her a more outright villainous role, trying to steal the magic lantern and Sparky the annoying dragon. Hey, I'm with you there actually. But it just doesn't click, none of it works. It's as if we're being dropped into this character's life halfway through a redemption arc, so you have absolutely no idea how you're meant to react to her, let alone care about her. Whilst episode 8 finally grants us the sweet merciful release of it all finally being over, you still have to suffer through a song about the power of friendship. End me now. But yeah, that's it, which is insane. The big climactic finale does absolutely nothing to progress this story with the villains. There's no actual narrative payoff. The villain gets a little bit more evil and Misty cries about being a lonely loser. But this was all stuff established at the start of the series, so we're back to where we started, and it's just so strange. There's an extreme lack of genuine conflict in the show. You don't have Opaline acting like Rita Repulsa or Cobra Commander and sending all sorts of minions each and every week. It's just a bland slice of life show with a boring big bad and a minor villain so meek and pathetic, you neither fear her nor pity her. So what's the point? So there you have it, probably the most negative commission I've ever made, and probably will ever make. But this series was just insultingly bad, and ironically missed the mark way too often to be enjoyable. None of the characters are all that interesting, and there's no reason to care about them or the villains they're up against. Every episode is some inconsequential slice of life storyline, which gives the audience the completely wrong messages on how to conduct themselves and treat the people around them. It's honestly surprising after how interesting and deep the original movie's social and political commentary was. Everything since that film has been worse and worse in terms of character writing, acting, and general theming. And I know shows like this will always get a pass because they're just for kids. They're not exactly there to be analysed or thought about critically, but it's still important to note that these are the kinds of shows that shape the worldview of kids, so they do need to be written well in all aspects. Let Christopher Eccleston explain this one for you.
If you can get them young with good stuff, as they grow older, they're going to demand good stuff of their television.
Some shows like Thunderbirds, Kim Possible, SpongeBob, or Totally Spies didn't always go for morality-based episodes. They were usually just kind of fun entertainment. But I mean, they were still genuinely high quality. But My Little Pony seems to be going for that approach of teaching morals and slipping in socio-political commentary, and it's just doing it all very badly. So I think it deserves to be called out for that. It has this sickeningly corporate sheen of toxic positivity, and advocates for all sorts of strange takes on the problems people face these days. I'm sure even that little blue Australian dog is doing a better job than this show is, and that's aimed at like actual toddlers compared to this, which wants a slightly older kids audience. So yeah, that's my scathing review of My Little Pony Make Your Mark chapter 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever it is. Hopefully I never have to see a colourful little pony creature ever again in my entire life. And an extra special thank you to my Asbantium level patrons FaolanCortez and Nathan Gibson, my Diamond level patron Tom Hibbert, my Platinum level patrons Maximilian Foreman and Nick's Games, and all my Gold level patrons Boots, Calvin, Daniel Shillito, Francois aka Line Vortex, Herna Verzog, and Tom Azar. Thank you so much for your support.